We are now live. Welcome to this conversation, midday conversation. And today we're going to talk about, can you get distracted by money? So we're going to get right into it because I've had a lot of thoughts come up as I'm working with clients or as I'm having conversations with my own therapist around growth. Distractions seems to come up a lot of times. Distractions, boundaries, growth, all of these different things come up. And I think that I would be remiss if I left that part out of the career journey, especially as it relates to when you find that you are aligned with your purpose. Can you be distracted? And if you can, are you distracted by money, or is it something else that easily distracts you off of, your alignment, your path, your purpose? So today I have somebody here to help me have this conversation because listen, there's so many topics. Some of them might even make you mad. You might not even agree with me. You might say, Ariel, I've known you for so long and I've never heard you talk like this before. But honestly and truly, we got to get to the root of the problem if we want to grow, if we want to be successful. So forgive me now if your feelings are hurt, if you feel like this conversation is going left or right. And I will say my guest today, Mr. Let Go. If you guys don't know Mr. Let Go, you're going to get to know him in just a moment. He has a tendency to stir up some emotions in you as well. So just know that we are here for your growth and development as you transition from corporate into entrepreneurship. This is something that's important to me, and I hope that you guys take this very seriously. So how are you? What's up, Aaron?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I told you, I know this conversation was going to be super heavy before we actually went live. And I don't expect to teeter around the topic. So the
Okay.
conversation today is, can money be people? But then talk about, what does that title actually mean to you?
Okay, I am Mr. Let Go. I teach people how to let go of their dysfunctional attachment styles. I teach people to understand that their biggest problem isn't what's in front of them. Their problem is actually behind them, which is their childhood trauma, their exes, their past problems that they haven't fixed, so they feel that they're going to repeat their problems or whatever, and that's partly what we're going to talk about today. Your past catching up with you, that is actually distracting you. So that's what
Ooh,
I
is
help
that
people
what it makes you
do.
think of?
Yeah, your distraction, like whether it be money or anything else, comes from your past, is your
Mm,
previous disposition, who you used to be. You're trying to not be that person anymore, or
mm.
and be a better person, or be a nicer person, or be a stronger person. But the weaker person that's behind you is actually distracting you and getting you sidetracked.
I like that already. I like where we're going already.
Okay.
Right. So when it comes to, so let's stick here first, right?
Mhm.
Feeling like you're in alignment, feeling like you're on your purpose, you know exactly where you're going in life. You feel super locked in.
Yeah.
You feel like nothing can go wrong. You're feeling on top of the world. Have you ever felt that way before, by the way?
Um, Something always goes wrong, so I'm okay with things going wrong. I don't
Okay.
expect things to go wrong because I don't care.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
You
Because it
don't
doesn't
care.
matter.
What
Part
do
of
you mean?
Well, as an example, I lost my Instagram page.
Mhm.
That went wrong, but if I would not have lost my Instagram page, I would not have went strong on YouTube as I have, and I would not be at 100,000 subscribers on YouTube if I would not have dealt with Instagram deleting my page. It actually geared me up, and it put me in the same mindset as I was when I first got on Instagram. So I remembered who I was. Just remember, we're talking about who we were in the past being a distraction.
Mhm.
I allowed who I was to actually take over because who I actually am now was too lazy. So
Mm.
I became the person that I was back then, posting and doing this and doing that and going crazy or whatever. And I'm growing on Instagram. So now I just said, you know what? Because there's a book that I actually read by Grant Cardone called The 10X Rule. And he taught me in the book that you have to operate like you don't have any competition until you no longer have competition. Because I don't have any competition. Nobody can really do what I can do on social media. So because of what happened, something going wrong, it made me into a better person.
You know what the part, it's funny because we talked about this part of your journey as well, when you had like what 18,000 followers on YouTube, 88,000
Yeah.
followers on YouTube, and you were getting paid.
Oh yeah.
Right. And you were getting paid. So while a lot of the audiences on YouTube were growing, you were more so inclined to stay comfortable because you had 80,000 followers already.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But what you said that sticks to what your point, like now, which is your old self distracting you. It's like your old self actually, even though you said your old self distracted you, your old self is what got you back to being successful and having 100K on YouTube in essence, right? Because you had to reach back to that grind.
Yeah, I had to reach back to the grinding Aaron, instead of I got this, I can make this amount of money, with my eyes closed Aaron, the broke Aaron,
Not the broke Aaron.
I had to go back to the broke Aaron.
Well, so that's the thing. What was it for you that distracted you from shifting or pivoting? Because you now talk about how valuable it is to be on YouTube, right? And you are one of the people who has pushed me to like go out there and kind of tell people what it is that I have to say, right? And then also get on YouTube, like get off of Instagram, get it off against Instagram and get on YouTube. But so since we talk about reaching back to your old self, helping you get that 100K now, what was it that truly distracted you? Was it money? Was it truly like money that got you complacent?
Yes, like that's what I'm saying. I was getting paid. I used to when I had my 88,000 followers, I have a course, and I was able to just get in my stories or post a video saying, "Hey, my course is going on sale for this weekend. Get it, or you're not gonna be able to get it, for this price." And then boom, I get about 300-400 people buying my course just like that over a weekend. And then I just, it was just that simple. And then of course I was getting paid every time I posted, and I was doing other stuff or whatever. And I did not take YouTube seriously because of the money, because we're talking about, can money distract you? So the money that I was getting paid from Instagram was actually distracting me from going hard on YouTube, because sometimes if you're focused over here, you can't be focused over here. So now that I realize that Instagram, nobody really cares about Instagram no more, and that's just overall, I'm just like, wow, I got out of the Instagram boat before it sunk. Because if you talk to anybody, nobody cares about Instagram like that no more.
Listen, your reality is your reality. I'm not here to debate that topic, but I will listen to the advice when it's given. Okay.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here if I wouldn't. So here's the thing. We're going to shift gears a little bit, because for those of you guys who don't know Mr. Let Go, he also has a very large female audience, right? And the topic of conversation for me stemmed from my own personal experience. So I want to share one story. And I know that on our conversation, Aaron, you actually said something. I was like, I don't know if I agree with that, but I didn't attack it because I had to do something. But we're gonna have to. I know you're gonna bring your topic back up. I know you're gonna bring your opinion back up, and we're gonna have a conversation about it, because the story that I want to share is how, when I left corporate America, I talk about this all the time. I left corporate America. I was very clear on why I wanted to leave. Right. I had my idea of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to create impact. I didn't know it was going to be entrepreneurship. We got the entrepreneurship shirt on. Shout out to Dave, right?
Yeah.
I was super clear when I left. But as I exited, right? I talk about this all the time in my journey. I didn't have an entry strategy. What was I going to do after I left? I had a couple months saved up in the bank. And you also know what it's like to transition from your 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship, right? Yeah. So I was clear on why I was leaving. And I felt so good because as soon as I started speaking my truth, I felt like everything was in alignment.
Yeah.
The part where you said when things go wrong is
Mm-hmm.
the part where I personally got distracted. So
Okay.
I don't necessarily talk about this part a lot, but part of the distraction for me was finding a relationship. So this is where Mr. Let Go comes into play because he's all about like the relationships and like the deep rooted thoughts that are behind the decisions that we make.
Yeah.
So a part of my exit strategy, unbeknownst to me, because I didn't actually plan it like this, was that I found a guy who really, really loved me and started to profess all these things, like he's gonna take care of me, all of these things, right? Now, as a woman in society, you don't think that has something to do with your growth and development, but in reality,
It
I think
1000%
it
does.
had a lot to do with my decision making.
Yeah.
So whereas when I was single and I exited, I was this independent career woman. Then I exit and I get comfortable, going back to that complacency, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was a distraction. It was a huge distraction. And I know I'm gonna let myself pause right here because I know you have a thought process of why that is. But as I also explore my own journey, I have a thought as well. So I think that because you oftentimes have these conversations with your coaching group, right, about
Yeah.
women and why they make their decisions. I'm curious to know, like, let's start with that little bit, what your what your thoughts are about the whole thing.
Well, my question with you would be, did he make it like in the beginning? Did what he was saying make you want to just jump out and be okay with being an entrepreneur because you had his support and then you end up getting lazy? Or was it that you had everything together and he instantly became a distraction because he came around?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So it was a two-part question. Your
Okay.
first one was, did he say anything explicitly about the journey and going into entrepreneurship that made me feel comfortable? And
Like
then
I'll take care of you. Therefore,
right,
you can
right. And
just
then
jump out there without no problem.
exactly. And then the second one was, did I get lazy and complacent?
Yeah.
So the first thing is, he actually didn't want me to leave my job, but I was already
Oh,
considering leaving the job before I left. He would say things like, "Look, I don't want you to quit your job right now because I don't know if I can take care of both of us." And I would be like, "Listen,
but
like
didn't
me
he
quit
start
my
off
job."
saying, "I want to take care of you"?
No, well, so that's the thing. He wanted to make sure he
Oh,
could take care of me when I quit,
gotcha.
because
Okay.
he knew I wanted to exit corporate America. And so here's the
Mhm.
thing, I had my own personal vision for years of
Yeah.
what I wanted to do. But as soon as I got into this relationship, I started to consider someone else's idea of what success looked like. So his fear of us not being able to take care of me not being able to take care of myself, not being able to pay the mortgage, started to become my consideration, right? So I
Yeah.
actually stayed in my job a lot longer because of his fear. Like, listen, I don't know if I can take care of both of us. I don't know if my paycheck will be able to take care of both of us. So I think you should wait until X, Y, and Z. So honestly and truly, I had already been told to wait. And then I'm having him tell me to wait. And what it did allow me to do was save up a little bit more so that when I actually did leave my job, I had more money. But to answer your first question, no, it was twofold. He wanted to take care of me, but he didn't want me to quit my job, right? It wasn't quit
Mhm.
your job and I'll take care of you, which is a really good topic to have a conversation about because women,
Exactly.
right? Like, okay, I feel like there's two women that I know of, right? Which is
Uh-huh.
like, dang, I wish I had a man so I could just quit my job. And I'm like, honestly and truly, that was never necessarily my thought process. Because I was single, I was like, you're gonna have to do this alone. So when it
Yeah.
came to him saying, like, I'll take care of you if you quit, but I want to make sure I can take care of you, right? It made me frustrated. But I quit anyway. I didn't wait for his deadline. So that's the first part of your question.
Okay.
The second part of your question is, did I get lazy when I quit? So I feel like all your questions are like complex. So I talk about this part of the journey as well, which is like when I left corporate America, the first 2 days, the first 2 weeks that I had my 40 hours back on my calendar, I literally woke up late all 14 days. I just woke up late.
Whoa.
And I literally, because I told myself, you know what, you deserve a break. You've been working since 14 years old. You have not had any break. You went from 14 to college working to corporate working, and you have not had a break. You deserve a break. So I woke up late. I didn't
Mhm.
have a plan in sight for my day. I literally just kind of woke up and was just like, moving like with no real plan, right?
Yeah.
As I continue down this journey, and I feel like I'm opening up, like you like, oh, you like,
yeah, I'm ready because I'm like,
I know. So here's the thing. After doing that, so there's two sides to every story, because I would say he probably looked at me like, well, she waking up late, she ain't got nothing to do. She's not trying to do anything with her life, right? Let me put her to work. So because of that, I believe that he figured, well, I'm gonna put her to good use. And so through that, I started to invest in some of the ideas that he had. We ended up like creating this business. It didn't work out. Long story short, I put so much energy into this project.
Did he put the same amount of energy into the project?
You know what? I would say no. I would say, well, you know what? I say it was 50-50, because where his skill set came into play, that wasn't my skill set. Getting new clients. I didn't like sales. I liked the organization. I liked training. I liked the hiring. I created an organization structure. I like to bring in people and teach them how to do things. And so after seeing like one of the sales team members make the most money in the group that I trained, I was like, oh, I'm taking pride in this journey and everything. I've always been career oriented, right?
Yeah.
So because I got a chance to train her, I'm feeling like this is my purpose. This is a part of where I'm supposed to be. Meanwhile, the dream that I had when I quit my job is like on the back burner. So I didn't get late. I would say I got lazy in that first 2 weeks because I didn't have a plan. And then after that, I kicked it into high gear, into his dream, but not mine.
But my issue with the story is one, now y'all weren't married, but the protocol of, going in our direct direction of marriage is you become his helpmate, right? So if you want to leave corporate and start your own business, I would have assumed that you would have had a plan on how it's going to go, so it can either match or be incongruent with his plan. And then y'all would be able to easily know if y'all are compatible early, right? But since you didn't know what you wanted to do, you didn't know what you wanted to do. Yeah. So when you was like ready to do whatever, he's like, whatever, I'll support you, but I would rather you stay. And he's seen you leave anyway, and you just waking up late, just laying around the house. He's like, I'm gonna put you to work. But he didn't know what he wanted to do. That's why I asked you who put in most of the work. You are supposed to, y'all aren't married, but going in the direction of being a helpmate, you help him. It looks like y'all was just working together instead of you helping him. So it's like, one, you didn't have a goal to go after, so you weren't really gung-ho on your life or plan. And then he didn't really know what he was doing, so y'all weren't super invested in that plan. And you started being invested in his plan, trying to make it your plan, because he wasn't really into his own plan. So to me, that's where everything fell apart. It seemed like it was two people who didn't necessarily know where they wanted to go or what entrepreneurship really looked like. I would have spent some time studying it together and trying to figure out not what goal we're going to have, but whether we're actually compatible in the first place. Because when I actually started with my business, I stayed away from women altogether. I would date somebody. Huh? Because
what made you do that?
Women are distraction. I don't need no woman all in my ear and ask me stuff and talk about complaining. I literally, when I first got on Instagram, I was dating a woman and I was all about Instagram growth. I just got done reading the book I was telling you about, the 10X rule, right? And I was posting 4 times a day. And part of me posting 4 times a day, I used to post funny videos, right? So I was looking for the hashtag funny videos on Instagram or whatever. So I'd be looking for different videos so I could post, because I needed to post 4 times, right? And then the part of Instagram was reciprocity, where I was learning that you're supposed to like people videos, just like people videos, stuff like that. So I'd be liking people videos and she'll be next to me or over there or whatever, like You always on your phone. Why you always on the phone? Why you like her video? Oh, like her picture. You know, and I'm like, you know what? This ain't working. So I dumped her.
So that in this point, it's like distraction for you was a woman.
Was a woman, yeah, but that is the ultimate distraction for
a
men.
Man. Not money?
No, women. Well, as far as men, women use money to survive. Men use money to get women. So until I get the money, I don't need no damn woman. I got to get my new life together, because I had money. I had a job. You know, I was good. I sold cars. I was very good at selling cars, but I wanted more. So and I wasn't like straight no women, but I used to have like really deep relationships that just didn't work out. But you know, women living with me, stuff like that, right? And I was like, all right, I need to focus. And number one thing I have to do is get away from these damn women. So I focus on me, and and I just went crazy into my brand. But that was the last woman I actually was taken seriously. And I seen right then and there what I needed to do, because she was driving me nuts. And she literally was like, "It's either gonna be me or you ain't got to finish the sentence." Click.
Listen, my favorite song is by Anderson .Paak. He goes, she says, it's music and me. He's like,
click.
Like, listen, you out of here before she could finish the sentence.
Yeah.
But it sounds like at the root of this whole conversation, while I started the conversation feeling like, and I have another story where I feel like we can even go into it a little bit more about the money being a distraction. But in the root of this part of the journey, it might have seemed like money was a part of the distraction, right? But for both of us, it was women and men.
Yeah.
So I feel like we should spend a little bit of time on that conversation.
And if you're watching the video, make sure to hit the like button. Go ahead.
Yeah, make sure to hit the like button. Follow us on YouTube. So I feel like we should spend a little bit of time on that. You coach women specifically in the relationship space. I coach professionals in the corporate space. So there's two different ways to look at this, because in a relationship, now I'm no relationship expert, right? And I will never proclaim to be one. But on the relationship side of things, I think those play a huge role in the jobs you decide to take, how long you can take it. Like, how long will you really last in your runway if you have a relationship versus if you don't, right? How long are you going to actually like stay in your job before you figured it out? Who do you have to consider to pay bills and take care of? I think relationships have a big part to play when we plan our exit strategy, right? So that's from a career perspective. But from a relationship perspective, you got to choose the right one so that you can actually have someone to support you in entrepreneurship. We can take it from any angle, but I think we should spend some time talking about how to mitigate that distraction if we actually notice that it's happening. Like, how did you realize, like, this is actually taking me away from what I want to do?
Yeah, because see, and this is just me. A woman attaches herself to the man's plan, you know. But so
I gotta stop you right there, because there's a lot of women right there who are gonna be like, "What?" And I know we have to have a healing conversation.
Yeah,
but
if they don't believe that, they screwed up. Like, not screwed up mentally, but they're screwed up in the direction that they're going. Like, you know, because you can just be all stuck in the middle of the wilderness, but you smart. But if you stuck in the wilderness and you don't know where you're going, you ain't gonna be able to get out of the woods or whatever. So that's what I mean by screwed up. Like, you're gonna be stuck in the wilderness.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay, so when you attach yourself to a man, you follow where he's going. But the first thing is, if he's not going anywhere, he's not the right man. And two, if he's not going in the same direction where you want to go, aspire to go, he's not the right man. So, because you could be an entrepreneur, but if y'all both want to somewhat do the same thing, you know, or he has this supportive nature of like, I'm a supporter, I'm gonna do my job. I love my career, but I love entrepreneurship. So I want to support you becoming an entrepreneur because that's what I like. That's what I want. You know, now that's a different story, because when you, because just like with me, I didn't want to have a woman attached to me because now I got to somewhat be responsible for her emotionally, right? And all of my attention was going on building my business. I didn't have the bandwidth for that. So when you start a business or you start leaving your corporate job, like I did and like you did, you don't have the bandwidth to be dealing with the emotions of another person. Yeah. You already got to deal with the emotions of yourself, like the rejection. You know, you say you want to start a t-shirt business, the amount of t-shirts you got to buy, and then the amount of problems you have getting them t-shirts off, because just because you got some t-shirts don't mean somebody gonna buy them. You know, then you got to come up with a strategy. Then you got to pay this person to do this and come up with this funnel. And you realize the funnel don't work. You just invested $2,000 in a course. And then you don't need your mate just being like, wait, you just spent $2,000. Why you do that? Now you argue with a mate because you just wasted $2,000 on a course. Don't nobody need all that. But if you have, like you in particular, having a man that actually is supportive, we're buying this course. We're going into this. Let me research this course before you buy it or before I buy it, whatever. And now you both are moving in the same way. Like he's a researcher and you're the doer, or he's the ideal person and you're the face of the thing. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then y'all are like, you know, sharing ideas or whatever. Like Jay-Z and Beyonce, they both we're going in the same direction.
That's the best analogy. Yeah. That's the best analogy. And I would say the reason I think that's the best analogy is because I think that in this day and age, everybody looks at Beyonce and Jay-Z as the pinnacle relationship. Especially if
that was Jay-Z under Beyonce.
That was Jay-Z under Beyonce?
No, Beyonce under Jay-Z. And then he supported Beyonce because Jay-Z decided to retire.
You know, I feel like it's funny. I was watching a clip the other day and I saw Beyonce accepting an award for something. And as much as
pointed at her husband.
Yeah, she was like, there's probably the cameras are probably pointed at him right now, but I love me some Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And the independent woman in me was like, she gave up her moment, you know, to talk about.
You said the who?
I said the independent woman. That's exactly what I said. Because we talk about that. There's two sides of Ariel. There's the independent woman, Ariel, who learned how to get through life because she was raised by independent women, right? She grew this hard exterior because she had to, right? And like you said, some past foolishness happened and she had to learn how to be hard to not allow things to affect her. But then there's this soft Ariel who likes partnership and who likes to like follow and not be the leader all the time. But every now and then, independent Ariel rears her head and we have to have a conversation. So, because I can't just tell her, like, listen, sit down. But I have to be like, listen, you know, you there, but you are growing and you will no longer have to like focus so much on taking care of everything. So
let me make a statement and a question.
Go ahead.
It's a statement and a question.
Yeah.
So the independent woman, really any woman, because to me, independence is stupid because none of us are independent, right? But when you said just you, right? The independent woman rears his head. That's the 7-year-old little girl in you that wants to wear her mama's shoes. That wants to come out and be like, hey, look at me. But at the end of the day, none of us are independent. We depend on everything, everybody, you know. Somebody breaks in my house, I'm gonna call the police. If I'm able to take care of them, I got a gun or whatever, but at the same time, I'm calling the police. Like, I need other people, men, women, white people, black people, whoever. Like, I need other people. Like, we both are like a part of like a huge group of people that depend on each other, right? So to me, whenever a woman says I'm an independent woman, that is the hurt little 7-year-old girl that wasn't seen or heard, that just wants to be heard. And it's just a goofy word. It's like me saying, oh, I'm from the streets, I'm a gangster or whatever. You're going to look at me like, what are you talking about? Well, you know, I'm from the streets. When you look at me like I'm crazy. So absolutely. To me, that's the woman side of I'm from the streets. I'm independent.
You're right.
It means I'm hurt, actually.
You are super
Yeah.
right. I look at the when you go live, right? And I look at the women who are extremely triggered by some of the things that you say, like
Yeah.
independence is stupid, right?
Hmm.
And I think about my own personal journey and
Yeah.
how I can stand here and tell you that there's an independent woman right here. And there's also a softer side of Ariel,
Hmm.
but that she's growing. Ariel
Yeah.
is growing. But I'll tell you personally, having to look myself in the face, in the mirror,
Yeah.
and come to terms with the fact that I had only identified as an independent woman for so long, the hard part is acknowledging that part and then deciding to grow from it. So one of the things
Yes.
that I think that we should actually talk about is like I was having a conversation with a homeboy this morning, and the decision that I feel like a lot of independent women are faced with is the decision to grow from that space, but the decision to stay broken.
But
Because
we got to
I do
start
agree.
by not calling them independent.
Say
I'm
what?
sorry, it's just nasty when you say it. Like, it just
I
makes
know
me
you don't
want
like the
to
word, but
throw up in my mouth.
what would you decide? What would you term it? Because I think that when a
It's
woman
just
goes from
women.
independent to being more dependent, being
We're
more
just we're just people,
right.
and the way we learn is through other people.
I'm talking
Nobody can
about
learn
healing
from
though.
themselves, huh?
I'm talking about healing though, because
But that's
truth
what I'm
be
saying.
told,
See, the first part of healing
mhm.
is self-actualization. To be able to say to yourself, like,
Is that the
okay, I'm
first
not.
part? Because I feel like self-actualization is the journey.
I think that's the beginning and the end. First, you got to
Yeah.
know where you are now.
Mhm,
That is your, present self-actualization. Where
mhm,
am I? Who am I? What are my problems? What do I need? What do I not need? What do I need to get rid of?
mhm.
Right. And then there's another self-actualization at the end. You know what I'm saying? So to me, the whole process is self-actualization,
Excellent.
self-awareness.
Yeah.
So to me, once you realize, like, okay, I'm gonna start with this stupid mindset of I'm independent, because you like you only operate in the way that you feel like you are, right? If you are let's just say stay with independent. If
Mhm.
you feel like you're independent, you're going to naturally, like, the cells in your body, the way you operate, the way you talk is going to propel you into independence. You're going to
Mhm.
stay independent. So
Mhm.
when you wanted to become like an entrepreneur or whatever,
Mhm.
you're going to say, I don't need no help. I might call you, hey, you need anything? No, I'm good. Because you have this mindset of independence, right?
Right. Yeah.
But once you change your identity, because it's about identity, you change your personal identity and
Mhm.
say, I am a dependent woman, or I'm just a woman.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with just saying, I'm a person, I'm a woman, and then you just freed yourself from all this independence, because if you say you're independent, you're going to act independent.
Yes, Aaron, I agree.
Yeah.
And let me help you understand the female experience, because I
Mhm.
want people to know when you said just this affirmations, I believe in affirmations. I am dependent. Like I am not right. I say the
Yeah.
words, I believe it.
I'm
But the
dependent on
process,
you.
say that again.
I'm dependent on you. Like,
And it's vice
we
versa.
all are, right?
But let me give you a little bit of glimpse in what it looks like for a woman to actually acknowledge that.
Uh-huh.
In 2022, you have high earning Black females who are hell bent on identifying as independent. And before they actually acknowledge the fact that, oh, I like to start to change that affirmation, it's going to take some time to first acknowledge that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you acknowledge that, okay, I don't want to be independent. I want to be soft. I want to be ease. I want to flow in my day. I want to be submissive. I want to learn from a man. I also need a man, to help me, especially if
Yes,
you're trying to be in entrepreneurship.
exactly.
Then that's a decision. But let
Mm-hmm.
me tell you what happens between the decision and the being. I
The
personally,
actualization.
the
Yes.
actualization, right?
Yes.
I personally have never felt myself resist growth the way that I resisted growth when it came to me recognizing that I have to acknowledge the fact that I have to work on taking my time,
Mm-hmm.
giving myself grace,
Letting
because
people in.
letting people in, giving yourself grace. We say that it's so flippant, right? Give yourself
Mm-hmm.
grace. But something so simple as journaling, right? When I say give yourself 30 minutes to journal, oftentimes it's like, yeah, I ain't got 30 minutes to journal. But when I'm in that seat and I'm telling someone, that's because I know what the process feels like. But when I'm in my next flow of growth, I felt myself giving myself 5 minutes to come up with an epiphany. 5 minutes to say, all right, am I healed now? I'm no longer an independent woman. So I'm walking around like devaluing this independent, woman. But the work is in the journaling. The work
Yes.
is in how I relate to other people. The work is in accepting help, right? How many
Mm-hmm.
times have you asked if I wanted something to eat? And I'll be
You're
like,
like, no, I'm good.
so honestly and truly, I want to just acknowledge the fact that yes, and I think that what happens when women hear you is it might feel like you make it seem like it's just easy, just to be a soft woman. But independent women that's built up over years.
Yeah.
So I want to just pause for a moment because there's a lot that goes into acknowledging that you're an independent woman, doing like the affirmation that you are no longer an independent woman, that you're dependable, that you're soft, that
Well,
you're
interdependent. That's the actual word, interdependent. Yeah.
interdependent.
Yeah.
And then doing the work to actually be that woman. So the reason I say that is because I felt myself being like, this is hard.
Yeah.
This is really hard. Like to establish the fact that you need help and to rely on someone, that's hard. I was literally said this morning on a call with a friend, because I said at this point, some of these women have built up 6 and 7 figure businesses on the identity of being independent. So the work that it took me to not be independent, it had me out of commission for a long time. So for women, along a lot of their healing rests on the fact that, okay, well, if I'm going to give myself grace, that means I'm not working in my business for like 6 strong months. And I don't know if I have the capacity to lose 6 months of revenue, especially if I'm a single woman, right? You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah, let me ask you a question though. These 6 and 7 figure women that we all know, they were not independent. They're just lying to themselves because these are still broken women. See, just because you got money doesn't mean you're not broken.
I'm not saying it doesn't.
These women who are saying I'm independent are broken. Like, that's a fact, right? Yeah. You can make a lot of money because it's drug dealers that make a lot of money. And it's a big indictment in Atlanta right now. And they got all this money, but they still run around doing all kinds of crazy stuff. That's why they indicted, right? So like as an example, the guy who was up on who did the Big Meat story, he's a big actor, right? He's making all this money. He just got locked up for not giving a watch back. So it's plenty of people who are out here in front of you on social media or making good money, millionaires, still like a child with a bunch of money.
But so are you hearing me when Go ahead.
So when you hear women saying I'm independent and they got all that money, until they let that independence go, their lives are gonna be trash. Money does not make you happy. Money is just a conduit. It's just a tool in order to get more things or to obtain something. You understand? Money is just a thing to exchange it for, right? But you can't exchange your femininity for the money. That's like exchanging who I am for a hammer. Money is a tool. You ain't even got what it is that you want yet. The money is just a tool to get what you want. So if you're exchanging your femininity or who you actually are as a woman for money, you still got 3 more steps to go in order to get to fulfillment or whatever. So I just want to let everybody watch and know that independent mess, I don't care who said it, that person's broken. Or they have a broken mentality. And it came from their mom or their homegirls, and they're just like, yeah, we're independent, and they all just senseless, But like I said, a senseless person can easily make a lot of money. You have to get to the point where you realize that, because each one of those women, and you've heard their stories because you've interviewed a lot of them, they utilize other people's help, whether it's they got a degree and they got a government loan to get the degree, which was they was dependent on the government. You know, because a lot of people who have a degree or a doctorate or whatever, they didn't
Mhm.
pay for school on their own. They got a school loan. So you're dependent on the government in order to, you know, you got to pay the loan back, you know? So that's
I,
dependent.
I get what you're
There's a
saying.
lot of different ways of being interdependent, but women are running around saying they're independent. Men
Well,
don't
see,
say that.
here's where, and hopefully you can agree to this.
Mhm.
I'm not at all saying that anything that you're saying is wrong.
Okay.
But what I will say is where the conversation starts to where you might have to like take a back seat is
Mhm.
the how to in like processing how to actually go from identifying as an independent to identifying as interdependent. So
Mhm.
one thing that I've recognized
Mhm.
is that when I am pressured or when I'm thrown at like some type of thing that makes me triggered, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm more resistant to change.
Mhm.
And I oftentimes feel like hopefully we can have a real conversation about this because I think
Sure.
that you know this. A lot of women are triggered by your content.
Mhm.
But what allows me to listen is because I'm on a healing journey. So I'm able to acknowledge what part of it hurts my feelings. And
Yeah.
I'm also able to acknowledge the fact that I no longer want to identify with my old self.
Right.
Can you understand what I'm saying when I say that the way to going from independent to interdependent partly and largely relies on a woman being able to give herself grace. Can you say
Yes.
yes or no okay, you can agree
Yes.
to that.
1000%. Yeah.
So, as you go through, give the process of learning how to give yourself grace, I think that there's a lot in society and in a woman's mind that makes it hard for a woman to give herself grace, especially when she feels like she has to fight for her independence or fight for her place in like the world. So this is super duper like it's just coming off the top of my head, but
Okay.
Kevin Samuels, right? Like
Uh-huh.
I think you and Kevin Samuels get the same type of reaction from women who are maybe identify as independent, right? I
Mhm.
think that the visceral disregard for like a woman's feelings, I think that it makes her harder. It makes us harder. I think that it doesn't if I'm being faced with like, nah, you gotta change. You independent, you stupid. It makes me want to be like, well, I don't want to change because like, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and I heard myself in my process feeling defensive and being
Yeah.
like, well, you know what? Super. This is when you have to get really, another friend of mine said you have to get really honest with yourself because what the voice was saying is, you know what? F it, I'll stay broken then. Because the
Well,
work that it takes for me to actually fight for this healing, I got to fight with myself and I got to fight with the world. I think that basically, since you agree that it takes for a woman to give herself grace to go through that process, would you not agree that it would be better for like men and women who want to encourage this type of change to be more graceful? Because I also feel like that's another conversation that happens in your space. It's like, why y'all trying to be so soft on these women?
well, my answer to that is no. And the reason why is because we have to talk to people like adults, and
Mm.
women have to make a choice. Are they going to be children or are they going to show up as adults? So, just like we talked about, the independent woman inside of you is the child in you. We
So why
just
wouldn't you talk to her like a child? Like at least
because
why wouldn't you
hold
talk to
on, just
that
think about
part?
this.
Hey,
No,
it's okay. You don't have to be
hold on. Think
independent.
about this. Think about this. Think about this. She is not a child. You talk to children like children. I am never going to talk to a woman like she is a child. My
Okay.
job, because you got to remember, I'm a coach. So the answer to my answer to your question is,
Mhm.
how does a woman get from being independent to interdependent? Is one of the options is coaching. So they can come into my coaching group, do a one-on-one with me. You've seen how I run my coaching group. It's beautiful and it's a safe space,
What
right?
does it look like for you to help a woman give herself grace? That's what I
Well,
want to know.
My thing is this: I don't necessarily believe in these words like give yourself grace or love yourself because they're ambiguous. I offer women specifically, I offer women a set of principles that they actually now can go by. Like recently, this was yesterday, a woman in a group that was new was like one of my principles is it doesn't matter, right? For example. And I gave her 17 principles, right? And she said, well, what if I don't want to go in Pandora's box and open these feelings up? I'm like, okay, you're just going to have the same problems as you have now. You know, it's up to you. If you want to do the work, do the work, but I'm not here to make you do nothing. And she said, but okay, so where do I start? And I said, the principles, right? And I sent her the principles again, because every time you come my group, you get the books, the principles, everything that I have to offer to show them. And then sometimes people don't want to, you know, they don't know, what is this? Or they don't believe in it or whatever. Next thing you know, I said the principles, right? So she reads the principles, and the first principle is it doesn't matter. And she said, what is this? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter mean. Read the principles, study the principles. When you studied all 17 of the principles, then we'll talk. So that's an example right here. Women,
What
to a
is
certain
it?
degree.
Why does it not matter? Help me understand why the first one is it
There's a
doesn't matter.
context to everything. That's one of the principles. So the same thing what you just said, I had to tell her there's a set of principles. So my point is, it's not about that one principle. It's about the set of principles, right? Because one principle isn't going to get you where you need to get to, right? Because everything in life has, it's like a toolbox. Sometimes you need a wrench, sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes you need some pliers, sometimes you need a screwdriver, right? So depending on the situation, you pull out something from your toolbox and you take care of it. One tool, if you walk around with a hammer, you ain't gonna get nothing done. Especially when you're dealing with a car. If you go to a car with a wrench ain't going to fix almost nothing in your car. You know, you have to have a whole toolbox. So, and I think that's the biggest issue that women run into. They think just love yourself, or the thing you said. What did you say?
Give yourself grace.
Give yourself grace.
That is
That's
not
just
a mockery, and I understand that you are. I gotta.
Yeah, it's not a mockery, but it's ambiguous.
No, I gotta pause you because
Okay.
it might be ambiguous, but it's ambiguous for you because you are a man. But what I'm trying to tell you, and let me help you understand why I say that. As a woman who has experienced hardness and who has experienced not giving myself grace, I also know what it feels like to give myself grace in the nuanced way. For example, I just explained when I was journaling, right? And as I know that this is a practice of mine, and I know a lot of women people have ebbs and flows through clarity, mindfulness, you know, having a practice of yoga, and then sometimes it not working or your practice getting stale. Rushing your healing process is not giving yourself grace. When I say that, if a woman is running, if she's working in corporate America and you don't get 2 weeks of sick time, you don't get maternity leave, you don't get any type of therapeutic assistance, you don't get sick leave to kind of get yourself together. Or as an entrepreneur, you're a 6 and 7 figure earner. So yeah, you're not running it by yourself. But if you are out of commission for 6 months, your business is going down. So regardless if she gets a loan, regardless if she gets like any type of support, if it wasn't for her clients, if she is out of commission for 6 months to focus on her healing, life does not happen. Bills are not paid. And so by being faced with the mere fact of like, I have to keep the lights on, or I have to choose my healing and give myself grace, it's often like, nah, I'm not going to give myself grace, because it might seem ambiguous from the beginning, but it takes time to give a person grace. And a lot of times when women, this goes into a different topic, but when anyone, a girl or a boy grows up without learning how to give themselves grace, without a parent who's like, hey, don't worry, I got you. And they grind into their early 30s and later 40s, right? And they've done all this stuff off of the identity of being independent and broken. I think that the grace is giving yourself 6 months 3 to 6 months to journal, to process your thoughts, to actually come to face with who that person is in the mirror. What are you envious about? What are you afraid of being judged by? Why are you judging other women for being married? Why are you judging other people for being successful in business, right? When you're not successful in business? Why are you mad because that person is an entrepreneur and they're happy and you're sitting at your cubicle and you're not happy? You have to sit with yourself and
But
ask yourself
let me
these
say
questions.
this.
And they don't
We're
just come up
we're in
immediately.
total agreement with each other. I
We
said
are. It's just about the process.
the process is what you just explained.
Yeah.
The word was ambiguous though. You just explained it like beautifully. And that is all I'm saying.
Mhm.
We can't just look at love yourself or give yourself grace. What does that mean? We have to explain what it
What does that
means,
mean? I gotta write
because
that
this is
down.
what women do with each other. Girl, you just got to give yourself grace. Girl, you got to love yourself. But if a woman told another woman what you just said,
Yeah.
she's going to be like, wow, I got it. Give yourself 6 months, do this, and understand the fact that, okay, if I do this, this is going to fall apart. So my thing is this, it's more complex than just give yourself grace. And you just explained that. And that was like eloquently explained, So we're on the same page. But the thing about it is, I think women spend too much time giving other women the give yourself grace versus the full description. Because
you're right.
And then now you're sending a woman off. Okay, I'm gonna give myself grace. I don't know what the hell that means, but I'm just gonna do it.
That's true.
Because what you just said, I'm quite sure isn't spoken to in women's groups. They're just going to say, give yourself grace.
It's
and not the other stuff.
absolutely, yeah, you're right.
That's
But
all I'm
it's
saying.
absolutely something that I advocate for.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna in this moment, I'm going to yes and myself, because I also have to acknowledge that in the process, before you actually give yourself grace, you actually are a bit triggered by something. Somebody
And
hurt
you got to
your
know what
feelings.
they are, right?
Well, yes, what I'm saying actually, and I think you'll appreciate this, but I think that when I had to notice, why am I upset? It had to be someone like a Kevin Samuels or like, Mr. Let Go, for me to be like, why does that hurt my feelings?
That's
Like,
my job. I can't talk for him.
right?
But that's exactly what my job is, to let you know that you're not as together as you are. And that is a part of the self-actualization. Once you get to the point where you're able to, like you said, give yourself grace and say, okay, I can't run around saying I'm together, I'm healed, I'm independent. If Mr. Let Go said this, and now I want to throw my phone across the room, there's a problem. So instead of me getting mad at him, let me hit him up and do a consultation, because he may have a point. And I need to know, it's just like on Poltergeist. Do you go toward the light, Carol Ann, or do you run away from the light, Carol Ann? Like, one of it is, you can't just jump up and just do one of the things. You need to know context between what the hell is the light. Do I go to it? Do I go away from it? And that's the thing. Women see the light and they fight it. Well, you got to find out what the light is. Because the light may be bad or the light may be good. Stop just fighting random stuff. Yeah. Stop hearing stuff and start getting in your feelings. Find out why you're mad. Find out where it's coming from, why you're triggered. Those are the answers. So when you see people like me, because I don't talk about Kevin Samuels or none of these people, when you see people like me and I make you feel a certain kind of way, you have to go closer. You have to put your ear and be like, wait, let me listen to more. Why am I so triggered by this? And like I said in the beginning, it's not about what's in front of you, which is me, on Instagram or whatever. It's what's behind you. That's the problem. You being triggered by seeing my stuff is a symptom of the actual problem. Nobody in this world can say I'm their problem, because they don't know me and I ain't did nothing to you. I'm just showing you that there's still something sticking out in your life that needs to be shaved down or pulled out or let go.
Or let go. No pun intended. So here's the thing. You said something and I wanna stick here. You said you said get in your feelings. And I don't know if you meant it like
Yeah.
but I
Yes.
really think that that's gonna probably be my next post because I think getting in your feelings is a part of self-actualization, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I want to clarify this because I started coaching and focusing on corporate professionals who want to become entrepreneurs because I started my own self-actualization journey.
Mhm.
Like I was watching Carl Jung and learning this point of view from a psychology perspective before I
Mhm.
got my degree because I wanted to be the best me that I could be, right? And it just so happened that entrepreneurship was that way. But where I feel like I got distracted, because this conversation is about distractions,
Mhm.
I think I focused on, okay, when I started making money, I forgot about the healing. So I
Money
went,
is a distraction.
it's funny because this comes back to like, I'm having thoughts and we're actually like spitballing this together because it's like therapy, coaching, building my business, all of that got me to a point in
Yeah.
entrepreneurship where I felt like, oh, I can breathe again.
Mhm.
Stop going to therapy. I had this relationship. I was dealing with it on my own. I made my first little 12,000. I had people like, well, why are you getting this degree? Like you already make the money you want. And now I'm thinking about why am I continuing? Like I'm starting to question because I'm
Yeah.
losing my own like healing process,
Yeah.
forgetting that you're here for self-actualization. You're
Mhm.
here for like purpose,
Yeah.
not for the money. And then I forgot to get in my feelings. And I feel like
Right.
when we unlock that piece for women, and you have to tell me if you think this is for me, because I think a lot of women are like, why are you so focused on women healing anyway? You got to help me understand the men's healing journey because I think getting in your feeling is a way to heal for a woman, even in your exit. Like if you want to exit
Mhm.
corporate America, I don't think you should leave your feelings behind. But then there's another part to it. I'm gonna get back to. I'm gonna write it down. What do you think about the man and woman's journey of like getting in your feelings? Because that's a cliche. Get out your feelings, girl. How many times have you heard that? Like,
Yeah.
and
All
for
of
the women
that
who are watching, how many
virtually.
times have you heard somebody tell you get out your feelings?
Yeah. Virtually everything we were taught is wrong. Get out your feelings. That's wrong. Be a man. That's wrong. All that stuff. Virtually because our parents were broken. I'll say that again. Our parents were broken and they made us broken. So I go totally against what everybody taught me when I was young because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. Right. Because you can look at your parents' body of work and tell they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So why in the world would I turn around and do what they were doing and it didn't work for them? you know so you have to find out what works and what doesn't work instead of just doing something because somebody told you. So when it comes to get out your feelings with men, it's the same thing. We have to get in our feelings. So as a man, we have to find out what our primal need is, and a woman find out what her primal need is, which is survival needs, right? And what our survival threats are. So you got a survival need and you have a survival threat. So for a man's survival need is love. We actually experience love more often and earlier than women do in most cases. And I'm looking at the typical Black person who was raised by a single parent. Different people have different situations, but overall, men experience love way faster. Like I worked at a car dealership, right? As an example. And it's about 15 car salespeople, right? We can't walk past one another without touching each other. Women don't do that. We got to fist bump each other. We got to bowl somebody. We got to push them. We got to dap them up. We cannot walk, throughout the whole day.
Really?
So if I walk past a man 6 times, we're going to fist bump each other at least 3 of those 6 times. They're not going to be just one. Women don't really touch each other, right? So our survival need is a little bit different than a woman's survival need because we get the love from our parents, our mom, a little bit more than y'all get y'all love from mom because it's a psychological thing that says mothers raise their daughters but love their sons.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
mothers love their, fathers love their daughters and raise their sons.
Yep.
So the majority of us have been raised by one person, and that is usually a woman. So that means as men, we've been loved by our mother, and y'all were raised by your mother. That's where all this independent woman crap actually comes from, because you have so many emotional deficits that came from your interaction or lack of interaction with your mother, right? But we didn't get that. We got all the love, all the comforting. Sometimes we get too much and we get babied or whatever, or they make us their little husband or whatever, you know what I mean? But overall, we don't leave the house with a deficit of oxytocin and love and bonding and things like that. And then when we go out, we go hang with our homeboys, and now boys are just so close, and we'll fight for each other or whatever, back to back. Like who won it? You know what I'm saying? Girls are stuck in the house. They're not out in the neighborhood bonding with other girls, and they're not even in the household bonding with their mother. Mm-hmm. So we're bonding in the house, we're bonding outside the house. We're doing all kinds of stuff. Young boys, we set fire to stuff, we be stealing the stuff, we do all kinds of stuff, but we do it with our friends. So while we're doing all of these, whether bad or good, all of these bonding activities, what are girls doing? Just in the house, being ridiculed by their mother, emotionally abused by their mother, told that they're not enough by their mother. So now they when they leave their household, the man kind of like has it more together emotionally. Not saying we're perfect, but we know how to express ourselves without crying all the time, without complaining all the time. We kind of like know how to operate. But women, they usually have to act like men in order to survive, because they don't know how to be a woman. So that's where this independent woman mindset comes from, because they're like shells of themselves trying to act like they're somebody else. And it's actually called your role self, because you literally, in a lot of cases, acted like somebody else for your own mother.
So I do agree. We usually are on the same wavelength, but I want to say, you said men usually have it all together, because when we're younger, the boys go out and they explore, and the girls do stay home. And I think that for you guys who are watching, you can say you agree or not, because you grew up, in your household, so y'all can say, I grew up in the house or not. I definitely grew up in the house. My brother grew up exploring, but I wouldn't necessarily say that men know how to deal with their emotions more. I think that society, regardless whether a boy is a mama boy or not, a man's gonna get the prestige regardless. Like, we live in a patriarchal society, huh?
We're accepted.
You guys are accepted as mama's boys. You guys are accepted as hard, toxic, masculine men. If you're in the office and you're a man, you're gonna get more better treatment. Yeah. And you're going to be able to operate in this world from a business perspective, regardless if your mama loved you, regardless if your mama did. The dysfunctions that show up in society, especially in work culture, for a woman who feels like she has to be hard, you're right. So I'm agreeing with most of the stuff, but I just think that men walk around hurt, and it doesn't necessarily stop them from getting married. Right? It doesn't stop them from making a lot of money. It doesn't stop them from getting jobs. But for a woman, we oftentimes got to show up at the workplace super hard. We got to turn our feelings off. We got to go to the office. And so society also perpetuates what we didn't get at home. So no, daddy didn't hug us because he wasn't there. And then we also go into the workplace and we don't have boundaries. We don't know boundaries. Right. So that's another thing to even talk about, because when you grow up as a woman without that sense of upbringing, then you go into the workplace and you don't know how to operate, right? And you're trying to figure it out. So you got to be this real stern person. It's kind of like, I'm not even gonna say that, because that's not my zone of genius. but you're right. So I will say that you're right in the sense of that's how we grow up. But you said a whole lot of stuff. What I wrote down was survival needs. Yeah. We have different survival needs as men and women. And as a woman, I'm going to speak to the survival need of a woman, which is, the money and the man. And I think that if we don't necessarily, so what I wrote down was survival need, goes to the man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the man produces the money. Subconsciously, I don't care how many independent women we have on this doggone chat, but somewhere in the back of your mind, you say, "Oh, dang, I wish I had a man so I ain't have to work this hard."
Yep.
Or you say, dang, like if I had a man, he could help me with this business.
Mm-hmm.
Or you say, dang, if I had a man, I wouldn't have to necessarily do all of this stuff because I'm doing everything. Because
But
partnership is better.
just keep in mind, I just want to say this. A man is not here to help you. So he ain't here to help you with your business. We're not helpmates.
We're talking about the
I know what
mindset.
you're saying, but I just wanted to say that part because a man, like, because a woman may, like, for example, an independent woman, she may seek out a man to help her, and she'll find a feminized man because he's the only one that's dumb enough to come in and help you, because the natural role is for you to help him. So I just wanted to say that little part, but go ahead, because that's important.
You be saying loaded things, and you be about to throw me off my
I'm just
thought
saying, it's
because we
real.
said men who are dumb enough to help the strong black women. The strong woman, right? The
Yeah, no man is
masculine
going to come in and help you. Your job is to help him.
Well, when we start using the words dumb and things like that, there's
Okay.
an explanation. If we both
Okay.
grew up with too much touching mama's boys, not enough touching hard females, right? We
Mhm.
grow up into the world. You now have hard women and soft men. And that's
Right.
the reality. So I don't know about the whole dumb enough thing. But to go back to my original point, survival need. Going back to the exit strategy, right? And a lot of women I know actually, consider subconsciously or consciously how a man would affect their transition. And if you start with the idea like, listen, I got to survive, I got to leave corporate America, I got to be fine. And then you couple that with, the fact that you get a man in the picture, then you have to think about how does that actually affect your exit strategy when you get up out of there. So I want to also talk about practical things that a person can actually be aware of so they don't get caught up in the mindset of, well, I'm this independent woman, but for some reason I'm finding myself relying on this man and I don't know why. And here's the thing, I'm gonna go to, this is my final point, which is back to my healing journey, which is even though I had the voice that was like, once I realized how hard it was going to be to let go of the independent woman identity, and then also let go of the thought that if a man was in my life, life would be better. Because you also got to let that go too.
You do.
Then you realize what it takes for you to actually be self-sufficient. Self-sufficient does not mean you're not interdependent, but it means that you're able to wake up, go to sleep, take care of yourself, wipe your own butt, and be in a relationship. Not being in a relationship will help you. So when you said that survival need men and then money, and I thought about the exit strategy, I thought about, and I keep losing my thought because when it comes to like being able to be self-sufficient, Lord, I forgot my thought process. But
Why do we got to be self-sufficient so much? It's always about this child that wants to get away from mommy so much. Like we it's always this self-sufficient. Like, what about togetherness? Like let's be together, because to me, part of the answer to your question is, I would say, before you actually just get out and become an entrepreneur, find out what family structure you want to have. So sometimes getting married and having kids can actually come before becoming an entrepreneur, because like I said, a man is not an afterthought. You can't go out and get all this money, become an entrepreneur and all this, and then go get you a man.
All I need is a man. You know that's literally
right. Because at the end of the day,
I got my business. All I need is a man. And a
you're
wedding
only going to be able to attract a certain type of man, because a couple things are going to happen in your entrepreneurial ventures. One, you ain't gonna have no kids, right? Two, you're probably gonna gain weight because your priorities, like with me, I had gained weight because I was hustling, and you can't do everything, right? So you're going to gain weight because your main focus is going to be on entrepreneurship, money, and all this other stuff. So you're going to be less
entrepreneurship and fitness. You could be fine and making a lot of money with no
You
man.
can, but it has to be part of the thing. That's what you do. You get up 4:00 in the morning every morning, right?
I wake up at 5:00. You said that's
Okay,
what I
you
do.
get up at 5:00 every morning and you
5
do
o'clock
your
in the
thing.
morning.
So that is a part of your endeavor. Like is a part. It's like ingrained in you, right? You do that, but does the typical woman do that? No.
Oh, okay. I
They
mean,
don't
I think
unless they add it to their methods, and because that's important. Because
you also have fat entrepreneur men who are successful, and they also not working out. So there are a lot of women who are not working out, and men who are not working out.
But we could be fat and get whatever one we want.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how
same,
broken y'all are. Y'all can be. We can do what we want to do
because we're men. You got to understand, y'all can't marry somebody. We can marry anybody we want to. Y'all can't sit down and say, "Hey, I want, will you marry me?" You can't. So y'all are women. Y'all can't have the things. And this is what I'm saying. When you get to the point with the self-actualization part, where you realize, like, I am a woman. I am not a man. I have to operate differently than a man. Like I said earlier, we have two different methods or ways, or we have two different survival needs, and we have two different survival threats. They're different. So I can gain a whole bunch of weight because as long as if I'm making like $500,000 a year, I get whatever one I want. But if you make $500,000 a year and you get fat, you ain't gonna be able to get any man you want. And that's just the way it is. So we could both be fat and make the same amount of money. I'm going to have better options than you. And that's the thing. So I always look at it. If you want a family, you have to figure out where that fits into your entrepreneurial ventures before you become an entrepreneur, because you're going to end up being 37 years old with no kids. And now you like, damn, I want this, I want that. And not saying you can't have that, but now is a newborn baby going to get in the way of you being this entrepreneur and you running this 7-figure business? Most likely, yes. So now you're going to have the baby being taken care of by the nanny instead of you.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to your point, because you remember when I forgot my point, I had to write it down, because you said, why do I stress the self-sufficient part?
Yeah.
And it's because a lot of women are single, right? And in order to have a healthy relationship, hopefully you agree, you got to be healthy before you enter in a relationship, before you even get to marriage. All right. So
we never said in my therapy. I just want to put that in. Therapy is a huge part of this too. But go ahead.
Oh, that's exactly where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Because a part of the exit strategy, we talk about the monetization. We talk about how you can get high paying clients. You can get high ticket individual clients. You can get a corporate client. But if you don't start your healing process before you leave corporate, one, while you still got insurance, right? And then two, while you actually have some semblance of comfort, then when stuff starts to get uncomfortable, it's easy to go back to those survival needs and start relying on men subconsciously. And I believe that's where we actually start making bad decisions.
Yes.
You can be the smartest woman in the world, but when you put yourself, like if you exit your job before you actually figure out what healing you need to do as a person, then you go into entrepreneurship and then you revert back to survival tendencies. You start having sex with men because subconsciously they provide money, right? And then you get mad because they put a baby on you and you don't know why the heck that happened to you, right? That was the point that I was trying to make. So before you actually leave corporate America, invest in your therapy, because I had a therapist when I was in corporate. Then when I thought I was good, I'm like, life is good. One, I got a man. So that's part of the reason why we go to therapy, right? And so I stopped going to therapy, right? And then I started to make money, right? So I'm in this journey and I'm being like so great, and the world is affirming the things that I'm doing. But inside, I'm not tackling that last little bit of, you know, I would say masculinity, but I would say that independence. Like I told you, there's two women. And so that's the point. Before actually leaving, going into entrepreneurship, focus on your healing. Now, here's the thing. I'm gonna pivot just a little bit, because you remember I sent you a voice note in your DM, and it made me think about It made me think about, this is where I already told you guys in the beginning, this conversation is going to get heavy. And I'm willing to have the conversation with Mr. Let Go because, one, we're friends in real life. And I think that as much as he might trigger you guys, he really does mean well. He really does.
Yes, I do.
So there's recently in the news, Texas is going crazy when it comes to
Mhm.
when it comes to women using selfies. I didn't even know about the selfies thing until I talked to my homeboy this morning. I was like, they can't use selfies? Like, I guess people in Texas, like, y'all, you got to show how ugly you are before we find you on Instagram. And I just,
Yeah.
I don't want to be misogynistic. But Texas is going crazy on and the whole filter thing. And
I want you to just think about women are going crazy because they can't use a filter.
I'm not going. So here, let me finish. So
Crazy.
So here's the thing. Let me finish.
That's all I'm saying.
I got it. So after this whole conversation we just had, where I stand in this whole, like, and using filters thing, I think that we got so distracted by what politicians want us to do with our body and the money that they're going to be generating, whether we have a or not, right? That we forget that as women, we still have to heal. And I think that at the core of this whole conversation was not being talked about when we're talking about the human rights, when we're talking about filters. Like you said, there's a lot of healing that's required.
Right.
That I'm willing to do. And I know that you guys don't want to hear this, but at the end of the day, I think that as women, if you want to, like, as women who are also following me, who also want to transition into corporate America, going out of corporate America into entrepreneurship, these might seem like peripheral thoughts, but the thing that I'm going to just say it because I DM'd you and I said, wow, women are so up in arms about what politicians want to do with our body and how much
What
money
was my answer? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but you laughed because I said I was afraid to have the conversation.
I said, and I think we should
Hold on,
make
but let me say what I said, and I'll give you the floor. But I said that we're so hell bent on politicians and what they want to do and what they want us to do with our bodies that we're forgetting the fact that we have to heal. Because whether we have or not, the moment you get pregnant by a man that you don't want to get pregnant by, your life is, you start rethinking life decisions. And if you experience that before your transition or after your transition, especially after your transition, life is me telling you as your coach that if you set yourself up for success, then you don't have to go back to corporate America. I can't lay there in the bed and tell you not to have sex with a person.
Right.
And that's going to change all the trajectory of what we put together. Because that's when you're going to have to, like, go a little bit harder, put faith, you have faith in God that you'll be okay. Because statistically, when you have children as a woman, as a single woman, by a man that's not going to help you take care of that child, life is going to be harder. Your exit strategy is going to be harder. Becoming an entrepreneur is going to be harder. So I sent you that DM and I said, I feel like we're distracted. I feel like we're distracted by what politicians want and by people making money off of us. And I feel like we should be focusing on healing. So what did you do? You remember what you said or what your thoughts were?
I said, okay, so the reason why all these women are up at arms over abortion and the fact that they can't use filters is because women want to retain the right to be children. No matter what you take from a woman, they're going to start protesting and acting a fool because at the end of the day, they don't care what it is that you took away. It's just like a child. If a child has a toy over here and is playing with a toy over here, if you pick that toy up, what's the child going to do? The child's going to start crying and ain't even playing with that toy. So just like with women, when you take away a right of hers, which isn't really a right, because, and if they say, hey, we don't want to do this no more, well, that's literally an idea being, like, not offered anymore. It's not taking away your rights. It's just
the option. It's an
option that you just don't have anymore, right? So it's like they're going to
abolish. You know what the option is, though, right? You know what the option is. The option is to remain like being able to have like inconsequential relations, right?
In order to do, look, to me, it really says now if I do something stupid, I got to live with it. So overall, now some type of situations are, forced. So I'm not talking about those situations.
We are absolutely. Let me
Overall,
just pause you real quick.
yeah,
We are absolutely not discussing
right,
or any of the like.
right.
By
We're just
no
talking
means
about,
is this conversation about any of that. We
right,
are having a conversation about choices, about
choice,
decisions, about healing. We're not
right,
having a conversation about things that we don't have control over. So I do want
exactly,
to let that be clear, like let that be
right,
known. Anybody in the comments say anything about any of that, we're not talking about
yeah.
that. So go ahead.
But yeah, so overall, women want the right to continue to be children, which is have whatever option they can have that somebody else has to offer them. Because, like I said, is simply an option that the public offers. So it has nothing to do with rights. They're just not offering it no more. It's like,
Well, it wasn't right. It wasn't right in terms of.
Well, it's like they're going to take away buses. You don't have a right to get on a bus. A bus is public transportation. And if they want to abolish buses, it's just an option that is just that they just decide not to offer anymore.
In your coaching group, are people talking about how they feel about rights?
We don't talk about media stuff or whatever. We talk about us. We talk about us. We have number one, the number one rule we have in our coaching group is we don't talk about men. We talk about us. So it has nothing to do with healing. We ain't talking about it. We don't gossip about nothing. We don't care about no. We don't care about no. Because the thing about it is, if you operate at your highest degree in the coaching group, you're not gonna have to worry about it because you're not gonna be out here just running around having random sex with random dudes. So the only person that will impregnate you would be your husband, not some dude that you're having sex with. So you ain't gonna see the ladies in my coaching group run around protesting because they don't care. They don't need all that stuff. They have the understanding that this is my body and I got to make the right choices with my body. And I can't run to no boy, be like, oops, I messed up. Fix my problem so I can start over. Like a redo. Hey, yo, let's run it back.
Yeah, what you're bringing up made me think about the energy that we put into things, and this is also an entrepreneurship fundamental. When it's like, I remember when everything was going on in 2020 or 21, and like the whole world was in uproar about Black Lives Matter, right?
Yeah.
And in the community, it's like in the entrepreneurship community, it's like, listen. Part of your revolt is being a successful Black business, right? To stop running your business to go protest for, something that's really important cause would only take your attention off of what it is that you're doing right now. So if there were people that were conflicted, where it's like, oh, do I put this little black square on my page on the day that everybody says put the black square up, or do I just post my sale because I actually need to get some sales in my business, right? And I think that if we attribute the same principle, right? Because principles are principles regardless of how you apply them to different situations. But if you apply this principle of not getting distracted and where to focus your energy and attention on what's most productive, I would say that when it comes to women focusing on protesting about, for me, I'm like, how beneficial was it for me to learn boundaries? How beneficial was it for me to learn healing? How beneficial was it for me to understand how to make a decision? I personally would rather take that healing conversation than spend a day protesting. When at the end of the day, I don't care what.
It ain't not going to change.
And here's the thing. I have to make this disclaimer because I'm not here as a woman who's never, ever been. So when I tell you I don't ever want to go to I'm speaking as a woman who's been in different life seasons, and I understand like what it's like to try to hit that erase button. So I am not sitting here high and mighty saying that I've never been there before. What I am acknowledging is that now that I'm here, I realize, and that's why I sent Mr. Let Go a DM, because I said, dang, this is the first time I had clarity about we are having this uproar about laws, about now what sucks is that, like I said, we're not talking about that.
And I slid a couple 250s across the table, just so you know. So
And you know,
I
that's
contributed
important.
to.
Like, I just
Yeah.
realized when we're on a date, we don't ask questions like, we don't ask a man, hey, how many a part of. We just ask how many children you have.
Right.
And it's more important to understand how many times has he slipped up
Right.
than it is for him
Right.
to know, like, oh, I have no children to take care of. But how many 250s did you slide across the table in order to
Right.
do that? So I think that at the core of this conversation, and I knew that this was gonna be like sensitive, but it's healing, because it wasn't until I actually was on the other side for me to realize, dang, we having this conversation about rights, excluding the ones that are dire, right? Ones that are like medically inclined.
Right.
I'm just talking about decisions. I'm talking about choices. It reminded me just that, like, wow, if I hadn't had this conversation about boundaries, if I hadn't had a conversation about healing, if I hadn't have a conversation about my survival needs or my values as it relates to a man being able to provide money, right? Because I don't care who I do. There's a lot of women who subconsciously do see the value of men, and they see that they can be a provider, and they want so badly for the man to be the provider. But when you are afraid, you hold on to your brokenness. Hold on to that independent woman. You hold on to that identity that you know, because you don't know what's in that 6-month time frame, how bad you're gonna go, how much you're gonna be scraped on the ground to find your healing. You're afraid to go through that process. Like your client said, she was afraid to go through that Pandora's box. And it's even beneficial for someone like you to be like, listen, you gotta do what you gotta do. Because in that case, there's nobody who can get your healing other than you.
But you, right. I'm just here to support and to facilitate, but I can hold your hand, but I can't open the box for you. I can just give you all the tools, you know what I'm saying? And just for the record, because I think this is important. One of the ladies in my coaching group, she came to me, I think 2 years ago. She was going through divorce and all this and that, right? I helped her get through the divorce, right? She found a husband, got remarried, right? Her husband thanked me for her being in the group, because he was like, I was easily able to see what type of person how different she was from other women through my teachings. And then she's still in the coaching group now, because she knows, even though she's married, she could turn around and slip up and do this. And the coaching group keeps her grounded because she don't want to lose another husband.
That's real. Talk about being grounded. I just explained it. So if we stay on the surface level, you can't make your exit out of corporate. You can't reach self-actualization. You can't get a successful relationship. I think that the biggest part is, if you stay at the surface level, then you stay broken.
And people stay at the surface level because they're afraid of other people, and they're afraid of themselves. People just want girlfriends and boyfriends, but they don't really want the other person, really. They just want the figurehead of a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
Yeah, they want the idea.
The idea of having,
and that idea of a girlfriend and boyfriend is established off of a broken sense of what a man and a woman together would even look like.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Because a lot of us didn't have it, and for some of them who did have it, mom and dad either didn't show you what affection looked like between them. Like, there's so many nuances in how we are grown up and how we learn to love. But I know it might seem like, okay, how does this conversation have any careers and relationships?
Oh, it does all together, because a career is a relationship, just like a relationship is a relationship. When you go from being a corporate person to an entrepreneur, you have to change who you are as an individual. And your trauma is going to come out when you get out here and you ain't got no check every week or whatever. You know, it's times that I didn't get paid for like 3-4 months, and I had to live off of, the money I already had or whatever. So yeah, like, you trying to, and then you spending money when you ain't got no money, because you got to make something work. You can't just sit there. You got to, like, all right, I got to figure something out. You got to, Facebook ads, this ad, that ad, and it ain't working. You just lost $2,000 here. and you like, yo, something got to work. That's stressful, you know? And you can easily start cussing people out, or like, for example, you say you buy a course, right? And it just doesn't work. But since you're traumatized, you go out and get on social media, yo, I took so-and-so's course and it was trash and they took my money and they're a scam. You see how you just affected somebody's business due to your trauma? Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, you can turn around and ruin relationships or ruin your own life the same way as if you like bust somebody's windows out because you think they cheated on you. You know?
Yeah, I think that's actually the last little thing that I wanted to talk about, because as it relates to distractions, you mentioned, like, as you talk about, like, okay, I got to put ads in here. You sink $2,000 in the idea and you don't get the return on your investment.
Yeah.
Or you're not being healed enough so that the relationships that you had in corporate, the relationships that you develop in your relationship, your romantic relationship, and your entrepreneurial relationships fall through. Unfortunately, that is a side effect of you not getting healed. Yes. So it's like, no matter how strong you feel as an independent woman, not getting these things together has more of a side effect, or more of a fatal effect, right? Mm-hmm. than getting healed. But the point that you made about the whole, like, ads and things like that, it's like the shiny object syndrome. As entrepreneurs, I think that entrepreneurs and people, you have to get very clear on, like, your goal, going all the way back to the beginning part of the conversation, knowing what you want, like knowing what you want before you're in a relationship, knowing what you want before you quit your job, knowing what you want before you kind of go out there with an LLC, knowing exactly what you're building allows you to get clarity, so that if you start to put $2,000 in ads and you don't know what you're doing, that you don't quit. Or if you're doing one thing that you feel like you're in your purpose, that you don't get distracted just because something else is making money over here, because they're doing this thing. Because if you start something that you feel like you already know is on purpose, but you get distracted by money, by fame, by anything, you start doing things that's not in alignment with who you are. Mm-hmm. And sooner or later, that thing is going to fail, right? It's going to crash and burn. And so the relationships, the business relationships, the personal relationships, those things are also implicated, right? When you start going into entrepreneurship without clarity, right? So as we talked about clarity in relationships and then getting distracted in relationships, having no clarity in entrepreneurship also gets you distracted in that path. And the thing that we want to mitigate, going back to the transition specifically from corporate entrepreneur, is like, if you don't know that answer, and it's okay still to quit. Like I say this all the time, you can take a leap of faith and figure it out, or you can have an exit strategy and plan your exit and know exactly what you're going out for. Either way, you're gonna have to learn, right? Mm-hmm. It's just, is life gonna be your teacher, or is your coach gonna be your teacher?
Exactly.
I think that if you don't have clarity before you go into entrepreneurship, then it's a lot of these things, a lot of these life things, is actually more detrimental than the money. As much as we talk about money, I think that without getting your healing, the money, this was actually a really good conversation. I'm glad you joined me on here. Listen, y'all, I already knew this was gonna be tough, but I feel like this was gonna be a really good dynamic. And I really, one thing that I know is that Aaron really cares about, like, healing, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm 100% about healing, but I have to share that part more, because unless you know that that's what's ahead of the journey for you, you're going to think it's about finding clients only. You're going to think it's about getting your LLC. You're going to think it's about doing the things to start a business. And you're going to forget about the whole woman that you really see. If you see Beyonce and Jay-Z as the pinnacle of success because they're making money and they're in business together, or and they're both in love, then you have to focus on loving yourself, giving yourself grace, going back to that. And what does it look like? If you need to know, you can replay this video, or you can just talk about it. Like, talk to me, put it in the chat. Like, what exactly is giving myself grace mean? If you want to know, like, let's talk about it.
And let me
your exit strategy.
Let me say this. And Beyonce as an example, Beyonce was not this independent woman crap. She was this Southern girl from Texas that wasn't even good at looking at the camera. If you go back to when Beyonce and Jay-Z first got together, which was probably like 15 years ago, she was this shy girl who literally did not know how to operate in front of the camera when it came to interviews. and she had to become Sasha Fierce on the stage. But in a simple interview, she's just like just a simple little country girl who was just starry-eyed and happy to be there. She
That's a
was not
fact.
this independent woman, because if she would have been an independent woman, she would have not gotten Jay-Z, let alone anybody. Because we men we're not really attracted to manly type of women, and an independent woman is just simply another word for masculine woman. Because if you just think about what a woman says when they say independent, you're just going to have something to do with competing with a man, and who the hell wants that? So
I'm not trying to. I will say that I'm not trying to compete with a man, and I don't know the inner workings of Beyonce's relationship, but I will say that it's been refreshing to see her be his woman, and for her to even allow herself to be emotional when things go crazy. Because like it's like she's allowed herself to go through her emotional things, and I don't know this woman.
She stays a woman, right?
Say what?
She stays a woman.
She does, even when she feels disrespected, even when things happen in their relationship. She doesn't like change, so to speak. Like she shows up and shows that hurt, which I think that we can do more of. And if we're trying to change our career, if we're trying to change our lives, we're trying to change our relationship status, then we just got to start with healing. So one, Mr. Let Go, I'm glad we got to play. I feel like good cop, bad cop, but we both want justice.
Yeah.
We both want justice, but we just attacking it from like two different sides. If you guys like this, please like this this video. Drop a comment in the chat. Let us know what you thought about the conversation, because this is only the tip of the iceberg,
right,
as it relates to this. So we have to lean into the healing, lean into what makes us feel icky or what makes us feel defensive. Like we have to be able to lean into that and not run away from the light. What did you say the girl's name? But not run away from the light.
Caroline.
Like you got to run towards the light and identify what makes you feel triggered, so that you can put that into your exit strategy and plan your transition, your transformation. Before we get out of here, Aaron, Mr. Let Go, would you like to leave us with any words?
The first thing I would say is treat your transition from corporate America to entrepreneurship like you treat a romantic relationship. You have to become a different person if you want to have a different life. You know, they say in order to have something you've never had before, you have to become somebody you've never been before. And the number one thing I would say is get therapy or coaching, because the world that you're about to embark in is extremely emotional. So it's not about money, it's about emotions.
It's not about money, it's about emotions. I wanted to make sure I didn't change the live. Thank you guys so much for attending this conversation. I enjoyed this one. So we're gonna head out. You guys be great on this Thursday afternoon. And if you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments below. Until next time, peace out, y'all.